Every interaction you have is part of an invisible negotiation of power. You feel it when someone's eyes linger too long, when a voice lowers just slightly, when a body leans an inch too close or too far. These are not random gestures. They are moves in a psychological chess game as old as humanity. Each movement, each micro-expression, signals hierarchy, submission or control. You've sensed it, but rarely noticed it consciously. That's why it works. The real power players don't argue, they calibrate, they don't threaten. They tilt their heads, pause their breathing, and let silence bend the air around them. Machiavelli would have called this the true art of influence, ruling without appearing to. He understood that words can be challenged, but presence cannot. A calm stance can subdue aggression faster than a speech. A confident stillness can command attention more effectively than authority shouted from a podium. Most people enter a room hoping to be liked. The strategist enters observing who seeks approval first. That single observation reveals everything. Who's dominant, who's insecure, who's pretending control. Power in its purest form is silent geometry. The angle of the shoulders, the rhythm of movement, the distance one keeps. When you understand it, you see how the world is constantly signaling who will lead and who will yield. And in that awareness, conversation itself becomes irrelevant. Because by the time the first word is spoken, the body has already decided who holds the throne. Centuries before the invention of psychological terms like dominance, projection, or social calibration, Machiavelli observed them in the living theater of royal courts. He watched how rulers commanded loyalty not through eloquence, but through an aura, a tension in their silence that made others bend. In The Prince, he warned that appearance was not deception, but strategy, the ability to project strength without exposing one's inner machinery. What he described was not manipulation in the crude sense, but the refined control of perception itself. And perception, modern psychology confirms, is ruled by the body before the mind has time to think. Studies today reveal what Machiavelli intuited 500 years ago. Over 70% of communication is nonverbal. Before a single word registers, the unconscious has already judged trustworthiness, status, and intent. This is why charisma cannot be faked with words alone. It emerges from an alignment between internal conviction and external expression. Machiavelli's brilliance was understanding that humans are instinctively drawn to signals of composure and certainty and repelled by hesitation. The prince who moves calmly amid chaos transmits a biological code of superiority. Modern behavioral psychology names it non-verbal dominance, the ability to influence through stillness, tone, and spatial control. It's the same phenomenon that makes leaders magnetic and liars transparent. Machiavelli didn't need data to see it. He studied human nature in its raw form, the trembling hand of the fearful courtier, the unblinking stare of the confident ruler. To him, power was not in words, but in the invisible gravity one carries, the unspoken language that precedes every empire and every fall. Power doesn't begin with words. It begins with presence. Long before speech, humans survived and ruled through the ability to read and project signals. Tension, confidence, threat, submission. Every gesture, however small, is a declaration of rank in the social order. The tilt of your chin when someone questions you, the speed at which you blink, the distance you maintain, these are not random. They are primal indicators of how safe, dominant, or worthy you appear to the unconscious minds around you. Most of the time, you're not even aware you're speaking this language, but everyone around you is already interpreting it, instinctively deciding whether to follow, resist, or ignore you. The body is not neutral. It's an instrument of influence constantly broadcasting your psychological state. When your spine straightens with calm certainty, others feel it before they think it. When your shoulders collapse or your hands fidget, the message of submission radiates faster than your words can correct it. People respond not to what you intend, but to what your body proves. This is why the most persuasive individuals say less. Their posture, gaze, and stillness communicate control that words could only dilute. Machiavelli would call this the invisible theater of power, where the unspoken decides the outcome before logic has its turn. The modern world may disguise this with politeness and intellect, but the ancient instincts remain untouched. Meetings, relationships, negotiations, all are silent battlegrounds where dominance and deference exchange places through glances and gestures. Those who understand this arena no longer fight to be heard. They rule by resonance, because the moment you enter a space, your body votes, and everyone else adjusts to its decision. Every human exchange is an intricate dance of unconscious codes. Before logic interprets, the nervous system decides. Pupils dilate, shoulders rise, breathing patterns shift, tiny, automatic movements that transmit emotional truth. You can disguise your words, but not your body's electricity. Confidence expands space, fear contracts it, attraction leans forward, rejection subtly angles away. These signals are ancient, predating language, and our survival once depended on detecting them instantly. Even now, your subconscious constantly reads these micro-movements in others, decoding who is safe, who is strong, who is deceitful, all without a single conscious thought. This is the invisible network that governs social life, a silent exchange of power, safety, and dominance. The tragedy is that most people live blind to it. They speak loudly while their posture confesses weakness. They smile politely while their eyes betray contempt. The body is always loyal to the truth it carries. When the mouth says "I'm fine," but the shoulders slump, the lie is exposed. When someone pretends humility but occupies more space, their ambition leaks through. Machiavelli would have recognized this paradox instantly. Control begins with awareness, and awareness begins in observation, not expression. To master influence, one must see beneath the performance. The confident manipulator doesn't overpower through aggression. They mirror, they pause, they withdraw. They understand that power flows not from words, but from tension, from the precise control of what remains unsaid. The body then becomes both disguise and weapon. To those who remain unaware, it betrays them. To those who study it, it obeys. Every environment becomes a stage where the hierarchy silently arranges itself. In the boardroom, the confident one speaks less but occupies more space. Their shoulders stay open while others lean forward anxiously, seeking approval. They don't interrupt, they wait. That pause, that single measured breath, pulls the attention of everyone in the room. It isn't arrogance, it's calibration. The power lies not in asserting control, but in showing that control is already yours. The same principle unfolds on a first date, where the subtle dance of proximity and gaze decides who chases and who is chased. The person who holds steady eye contact without effort, whose gestures are slow and grounded, sets the emotional temperature. They're not performing confidence, they are it, embodied calm that quietly rewires the atmosphere around them. At the family table, you can feel the same energy playing out beneath casual conversation. The one who remains composed while others compete for attention becomes the gravitational center. They need no loud opinions. Their stillness challenges the chaos. Machiavelli would say they rule not because they fight, but because they refuse to be moved. Those who understand this code allow others to reveal their insecurities through excess. The one who talks too much exposes need for validation. The one who laughs too loudly reveals discomfort. Power observes, and through observation, it multiplies. This is the mirror of human behavior. Every overreaction, every fidget, every attempt to impress is an unconscious confession. The silent strategist doesn't attack. They witness. They know that by remaining still long enough, masks crumble and truth surfaces. Influence doesn't demand energy. It absorbs it. The room bends toward the one who no longer tries. Here lies the paradox that fascinates Machiavellian minds. Sincerity, the supposed symbol of strength, often exposes fragility. The more a person tries to prove their honesty, the more their body leaks anxiety. Eyes darting for validation, breath shortening, gestures multiplying in nervous rhythm. Words become desperate shields trying to hide the tremor beneath. The harder one tries to appear composed, the more visible the strain becomes. This is why the truly powerful rarely explain themselves. They understand that explanation is submission, and admission that their authority requires justification. Their silence is not emptiness, it is containment. When you speak too much, you surrender control of the atmosphere. Every additional word becomes another chance for the body to betray your intent. The small twitch of the jaw, the tightening of fingers, the blink rate increasing with emotional discomfort, all these are confessions louder than speech. Machiavelli would have smiled at this human contradiction. Our instinct to communicate exposes what we try hardest to conceal. Power, then, is the art of restraint, of saying less while perceiving more. To master this paradox, one must learn to see the battlefield of movement and stillness. The observer becomes the ruler, not by dominating but by decoding. For every lie uttered, the body whispers truth. For every argument made, posture reveals its outcome. In Machiavellian terms, control belongs to those who can remain unmoved, who can let others expose themselves through the unconscious honesty of motion. The body cannot lie for long, and in its betrayal the strategist wins without a word. In Jung's world, the shadow is the hidden self, the impulses and truths buried beneath moral performance. In Machiavelli's, the mask is its political twin, the crafted image meant to conceal those impulses from the public eye. Together, they reveal the dual nature of power, inner mastery and outer illusion. To understand body language is to walk the narrow bridge between the two, to see both what the mask projects and what the shadow leaks through it. When you start observing gestures, posture and micro-expressions, you begin to see humanity stripped of its polite facade. Every smile contains calculation. Every display of humility hides a bid for control. You are no longer participating in conversation. You are descending into the underworld where motives and instincts move freely, unfiltered by civility. This descent is not comfortable. It is the initiation Machiavelli would call the education of the prince. The moment one stops believing in appearances and starts navigating truth through perception. Jung would say you're confronting the collective shadow. Machiavelli would say you're learning the game beneath the game. In this invisible realm, dominance is decided long before intellect joins the conversation. A single pause, a subtle shift in gaze or a hand left too long on the table, becomes the script of power dynamics unfolding beneath awareness. To operate here is to become the silent strategist, the archetype of modern mastery. This figure no longer competes for recognition. They move like a shadow, shaping interactions without drawing attention. They know that real influence isn't in persuasion, but in precision, in seeing before being seen. In the mythology of power, they are Hermes with Machiavelli's discipline, descending into the unconscious field of gestures, where empires are decided not by words, but by who remains unmoved. Modern civilization prides itself on being rational, articulate, democratic, a world built on words. But beneath this polished surface, the same primal theater of dominance persists. In every meeting, political debate, or romantic encounter, there is an invisible dialogue happening below the threshold of awareness. The voice may speak of equality, empathy, and reason, but the body plays an older game, one ruled by confidence, fear, attraction, and control. Posture sets the hierarchy before a word is spoken. Tone dictates who listens. Proximity defines who owns the space. The illusion of logic merely overlays an ancient instinctual order. In parliaments and boardrooms, people imagine decisions are made through argument. Yet, as Machiavelli foresaw, the outcome is often decided by who exudes composure under pressure, who maintains stillness while others flinch, who can project certainty without aggression. Power in the modern world has not disappeared. It has simply become subtler, encoded in gestures instead of swords. The handshake replaces the weapon, the smile masks the maneuver, the pause replaces the proclamation. The arena changed, not the instincts. Even in love, this silent hierarchy persists. The partner who remains emotionally centered draws the other's orbit. The one who reacts first loses ground. Every relationship, from politics to intimacy, is an unspoken negotiation of control. Machiavelli's wisdom survives precisely because human nature hasn't evolved beyond it. It has only refined its disguise. Today's court isn't Florence, it's the conference table, the dinner party, the digital screen. But the code remains the same. Composure rules chaos, Stillness commands attention, and those who master the invisible language of gesture quietly rule the visible world. Every glance exchanged between two people carries a negotiation. It's not random. It's a contract signed without words. One gaze lingers a second too long, a test. The other looks away, a surrender. The small, nearly invisible exchanges between bodies are the micro-politics of existence. We pretend to live in a world of equality, but the truth is subtler and far older. Every interaction is a quiet duel of energy, rhythm, and awareness. The body is never neutral. It broadcasts rank, emotion, and motive through the tiniest fluctuations in movement. When Machiavelli wrote about power, he wasn't describing cruelty, he was describing lucidity, the understanding that human beings are constantly reading and reacting to one another below the threshold of speech. To see this clearly is to escape its control. Once you notice how tension builds in a jaw before defiance, how shoulders soften in submission, how silence thickens just before a lie, you are no longer trapped in the play. You've stepped into the director's seat. The powerful are not those who dominate others, but those who refuse to be deceived by the surface. They move differently because they see differently. They recognize that manipulation often hides in charm and that aggression disguises fear. And through perception they become untouchable, not because they outplay the game, but because they no longer need to play it at all. The body then becomes a map of human truth, a throne room where intentions kneel before awareness. When you learn to read it, you hold the only form of power that cannot be stolen, insight. You don't need to manipulate anyone when you can simply observe what they trying to hide. Influence shifts naturally toward those who see without reacting. Machiavelli would call it wisdom. Psychology calls it mastery. It's the art of ruling the unseen. Look around you and the pattern reveals itself everywhere. In every office, classroom, cafe, or family gathering, there's always someone who bends the atmosphere the moment they walk in. They don't speak louder. They don't demand attention. But somehow everyone notices them. Their presence alters the rhythm of the room. People unconsciously adjust their tone, their posture, their level of enthusiasm to match this silent authority. It's not charisma in the superficial sense. It is energetic weight, a form of quiet dominance that the body recognizes before the mind names it. You've felt this shift countless times, though you may have explained it as charm, leadership, or confidence. It's none of those things. It's awareness made visible. And then there are the others, those who shrink, who apologize with their eyes, who speak with upward inflections, asking for permission to exist. They make themselves small in posture and presence, unaware that every gesture is a signal of surrender. You've probably done it too, countless times without realizing it. Every moment you avoid eye contact to stay safe, every time you fold your arms to hide uncertainty, you're broadcasting a frequency that invites domination. This is not morality, it's mechanics. The body negotiates survival through behavior. Now that you recognize the code, you start to see it everywhere. The subtle glances of control, the smiles that conceal threat, the soft voices that disarm before they strike. What once felt like social instinct now looks like strategy. And once awareness enters, the illusion breaks. You can't return to blindness. You can't unknow the choreography of power written into every gesture around you. Seeing it doesn't make you cynical. It makes you sovereign. Machiavelli would remind you that true influence isn't high about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the quietest one who sees everything. Power, in its purest form, does not announce itself. It watches. It calculates. It lets others speak their truth, reveal their weakness, display their hunger for validation, and only then does it move. The strategist who observes before acting doesn't suppress emotion. They master it. Their stillness becomes a mirror in which others expose their intentions. That is the essence of presence, the kind that commands obedience without demanding it. If you wish to learn this art, begin not by forcing confidence, but by studying the flow of behavior around you. Watch the eyes that avoid yours. Feel the hesitation in a handshake. Notice who rushes to fill silence and who sits comfortably inside it. In these spaces between words, the real negotiations occur. Power is not created in speech. It's revealed in stillness. Every blink, every breath, every pause is a line in an invisible language written by the unconscious. So stop listening for influence in the noise of arguments. Start reading it in silence. Train your awareness until presence itself becomes your strategy. Because when you can see deception in a flicker and authority in stillness, you no longer chase power, you embody it. Machiavelli would call this the invisible art of dominance, the discipline of those who rule without raising their voice. This was only the first lesson. The rest is learned through observation and through the courage to remain unmoved in a world addicted to noise.